Your eyes, what do you see? Is the world inside your head what you want it to be? 22 ounces left of your happy place you spent days and days wasted away again. When you fall asleep, what will you dream? Are your thoughts filled with flowers, pain and jealousy? When I can't help myself, I close my eyes to see a million hungry eyes stare back at me. If I look inside, what will I find? Millions of baby spiders crawling around your mind. Take me deeper too, show me the real you. You won't do it again, if so for who? If the sun sets over life is sweet, sweet as can be. Lay my rotting soul beneath the willow tree. Open up my heart, I don't know where
Celebrate the music of Tom Petty with the Petty Thing September 30th at the Impact in Gulfport. And the doubleheader night of rock and roll continues with the Mushroom Brotherhood playing the music of the Allman Brothers Band.
Someday, baby, you're gonna trouble for me. Gotta let your soul shine to a brighter day.
Celebrate the music of Tom Petty with the Petty Things and the music of the Allman Brothers Band with the Mushroom Brotherhood. September 30th at the Impact in Gulfport.
Oh, well, my name's Wayne Sharp, and I play Hammond B3. I've been playing for a lot of years, and started here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast back in the late 60s. I was actually in my last year of high school, and me and Jimmy Buffett were at Trader John's, which was a little small bar between the Fiesta and a large restaurant called Sea and Sirloin on the beach. And I was riding a motorcycle at school. I'd get off at 3 a.m. and had to be at school about 8 o'clock. But I stumbled into a job at the Fiesta, a house band job, making more money than my parents. I couldn't believe it, and I'm going to school and living at home and had no bills. And so I fell into a house gig, and I stayed there for 3 years. And the leader of that band made me buy a B3, a Hammond B3. I didn't even know what it was. I had a box organ, and I was a Beatle. You know, I thought I don't need an organ. What are you talking about? What's really funny about the story is that the Hammond B3 cost me $100 less than a brand new Oldsmobile 442 that I was about to buy. You could buy a brand new Oldsmobile for $3,700 that year, believe it or not. And I bought a B3 for $36, and the car, I'm sure, would be a rusted heap by now, like me. But the B3, I played it 42 years, the first one I bought. And I'm on my second one, but I've had a number of them, but I've only played 2 professionally that, you know, like a guitar player has his favorite guitar or whatever. B3s are all hand-wired individually, and it's 1930s technology, so each one of them's unique and different unto itself to some degree, you know. But anyway, that's who I am and what I play. Wow, the Gulf Coast used to be a bedrock of music. I mean, a lot of the players that played behind the major acts in the country at the time, like James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Wilson Pickett, the drummers, the bass players, a lot of the horn players are all from the coast down here. I always was drawn to R&B. I'm from South Louisiana, and I love rhythm, and I'm a natural drummer more than I am a keyboard player, or I should say rhythm. I have natural rhythm. I didn't pursue the drums long enough to call myself a monster or anything like that, but it seems to be a natural genetic in my DNA, because I have 6 sons, and every one of them plays drums to some degree. There were so many clubs on the coast where every night, you know, you had house bands back then. Matter of fact, my very first job at the Fiesta, when I got that big job, It was 7 nights a week, and I did it for 13 months and didn't miss a day. Then the leader of the band, who made me buy the Hammond, quit the band, and I became the lead singer and kept the job. And learned to be a band leader from this gentleman. His name was James Gardner, and I give him all the credit to this day. I still use all the principles and the disciplines that he taught me about putting a show together, taking 3 monkeys like me and making a band for that night if you needed to, and really being dedicated and respectful about the stage and what you do, you know. And I've always had that love and respect and appreciation for it, and I've taken it as far as I can take it. But I'm one guy, and there's plenty better and plenty worse. I'm alive because I wasn't a born prodigy, in my opinion. I didn't come to this planet with a whole pile of talent I didn't know what to do with. I had a love for it, and I pursued it, and I put in the time. That's the way I kind of look at it. So I just kind of made that big decision one day to, the coast had changed as well. Like you asked me earlier about the music scene was really hot down here, and then it slowly started to fade, and the casinos changed it. I don't want to say it killed it, but it did wipe out one faction of it. A lot of the local clubs and such couldn't compete. You know, you go to a casino, and if you got a $20 bill and you sit down at a slot machine, they'll bring you a drink and you can hear the band, you know, for free. So it was like it started changing, and I realized that I had kind of gotten not stuck because I had everything a young hippie would want. I had a real job and money and a girlfriend and a car and a place on the beach, and it's like, what else is there, you know? But I woke up one day and I walked around for about 3 days in a daze, and I didn't know what was on my mind, didn't know why I felt so different. Every time I'd look in the mirror, I didn't like the guy too much. I was like, well, this wasn't a dream. And I actually said that to my friend, the drummer in the band at the time, David Hester, probably the brother that I should have had. I never had one. And he said, man, what do you mean you're leaving? You're going to L.A., New York, or Nashville? I said, well, man, when we met, this wasn't a dream. And I lost the dream, man, and I'm going to get it. Well, I can't go with you. I said, well, I'll send for you if I get anything happening. And it's another long story, but the first deal I signed, I sent for him. I brought him and his wife and babies out there, and we pursued the Sharpshooter Band. And I went to Macon, Georgia to get my friend J-Mo and Lamar and the Allman Brothers, thinking, well, I got this deal, and these guys have given me a chunk of change to do a record, but I don't know what I'm doing, but they think I do. So I'm going to go talk to one of my friends who's had a number of platinum albums and such with the Allman Brothers and see if I can get some help. And long story short, I played my demos for the two of them. I wanted them to come help me produce it, you know, and show me how to get around the studio. And J-Mo and Lamar both said, man, we want to play with you. And I was just shocked. But the Allman Brothers and C-Level had kind of taken a turn, both of them. And J-Mo, Lamar, and I had all grown up together here on the coast and had played together before Allman Brothers and things like that. And so it was wild. I went over there to get help, and I went home with 2 Allman Brothers. It was unbelievable. When I look back at it now, I almost can't believe it. I'm more shocked now than I was then because I don't know, I had some kind of, I had God with me, and I was fearless. And anyway, I went after it, man. That's kind of how it changed for me. When I went to L.A. and I quit thinking like a bar band, and I started thinking like an artist, and I started writing and getting with people that were on that end of it. And I had some luck, but it ain't all luck. You have to go out and knock on them doors. You talk all that stuff sitting on the couch, you know, smoking a fatty or whatever guys do and girls do. I'm above all that, of course. But, you know, you talk a good story, but until you do something, you know, you're not doing anything. And so I went out there after. I didn't know a person out there. And I called my mom and sisters and my girlfriend, and I said, I know y'all gonna think I'm crazy, but last 3 days I've been walking around thinking what's wrong, and I know now there's a hole in here, and I needed to fill it, and I need to fix this guy, make him a better man. And so I went out there, and I was going to use music was my vehicle to make me and the world a little better place. That's the way I was looking at it, and that's kind of how it happened. The scene started to die here. I was reawakened rather of my dream, and I just recreated myself and took off. and it's bloomed into this monster, this maniac that you're talking to. I ended up playing with all kinds of people I dreamed about, you know, and doing things like that. And I'm still as humble and appreciative as I'll ever be, and thank God for all of it. You know, I really went out there alone, so I really didn't have a band to sell, so I tried to put one together. I wrote the songs first. I started writing, and I started, you know, going out and knocking on those doors with my songs in Hollywood, you know. Sitting here, I said, I'm gonna go to Hollywood, I'm gonna write some songs. I've been playing them for 20 years, I ought to be able to do that, and I'm gonna knock on some doors. And then you get out there, and you wake up, and all them people that believe in you and were there with you, they go, okay, so you go and knock on those doors today? And then I had to really go, what doors? You know, there's real doors you need to knock on, you know. And that's what I did. I finally girded my loins, and I went out there, and I can remember just a quick little story. I was going to talk to Ray Charles, was interested in a song I wrote called Running Out of Time. I actually wrote it with him in mind. Had the lyrics and all done up in Braille at the Blind Institute in Anaheim, and donated money because they wouldn't do it for money, but you can make a donation and then the students would do it. And so I got a call from Ray Charles's music director telling me that they're interested in doing my song. Could I come up to the office in Hollywood? And I'm just like, I'm this little guy from home, Louisiana, Biloxi, Mississippi, you know. So, but I go to the office, and I'll make the long story short. He had a 2-story building, and it was stairs. And from the bottom of them stairs to that door, and who was behind that door, Ray Charles, I probably lost 5 pounds in sweat. I was soaking wet. By the time I got up there, I was literally soaking wet. It was running down my rib cage. I was standing there just like, almost in shock. I was like, what have I done? What am I doing here, you know? And but one of the high points of my life, it didn't get released or anything, but to have Ray Charles even interested in me at all, in my music or whatever.
She held her cigarette to my skin till it was all burnt out. It's a slow burn them down. Make up your mind so I can make up mine. How long will my finger take to forget the shape of the rain? All those tears cried out, they don't say too many things. So make up your mind so I can make up mine. We talked around our nature wants, the Friday and money talks, but now I urge you to leave.
All right. Well, hello. We are Vinyl Minds. My name is Dev. We're Devin Bear. This is Dakota Teddy Berkowitz, and this is David Gaithy. Gaithy, I got it right. I am the guitarist and singer. He's the bassist and keys. I also do some keys, and then we got Mr. Drums right here. And we all do a pretty equal amount of writing, I would say. Definitely for our own parts. Usually one of us will come to each other with an idea, just like a little riff or something that we've been messing with, just in our own time, send it to the group chat, and then if the other two like it, then we just take it and run, throw it into a practice session, see what happens. Pretty much it.
It's a lot of fun because we definitely look at each other as musicians and not just individual instruments that we play. So we have a really good working relationship when it comes to creating songs, being creative. Makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, we definitely have a good workflow. I really like Slow Burn, the first song that we played, was written in one session. I came in with that guitar riff, and then everything just came from that. And it was just me and David then too. You were in
at a gig or something.
Yeah, somewhere else. And yeah, we knocked that out, sent it to Teddy. He wrote a bass line, and
we have really good communication. Just we're able to talk, and we have a good common ground on understanding of music. Devin and Teddy are both instructors at Rock U2. We definitely want to give special thanks to Rock U2 and a shout out to Barbara and Tim, because if it wasn't for Rock U2, we might not be a band.
we definitely would be a band.
Right.
We ran into each other in such a happenstance situation.
It was destiny.
It was destiny.
I was dropping my kids off, my son Luke and daughter Leanne take music lessons there. And I was walking down the hallway and I heard a song that I hadn't heard in years. And it took me a second to put my finger on it. But then I realized it was actually a song by my favorite band called Space Cadet, by a band called Goddess. And that's just not something you hear every day. But
He's even got a tattoo.
we all have a couple of tattoos.
A few, yeah.
So
Calls the
we
three
thought about
tattoos.
we thought about the name Ink, but we didn't do that.
That's a little too on the nose. I
It
think.
is.
Yeah.
It's
We
spot
like,
on.
we like being a little more hazy.
Yes.
And vague.
Ambient.
Yes. Ambient.
But yeah, that's where I met Devin. Devin was in his little studio preparing for a lesson, and he was playing that riff, and that's how I met him. And we just struck up a good conversation, and that really was a main point that got us all together. Teddy and I played music together over the years, and we've always really wanted to try more creative, original music. So we all found each other and just really enjoying playing and getting more in the original scene. And then we're really looking for other local bands to network with, and we want to put on original music productions here on the coast. And so all bands, feel free to contact us if you're interested in doing that.
Contact me.
Yeah, he's.
Contact.
All right, me. Contact me.
Don't contact me. I will not respond. No, I was actually going to touch on that. I think we have a very good balance as far as the creative side of the process and the business side of the process, which I thank you for that because I'm so bad at that. I can't. I'm horrible at checking social media, dude. I can't do that. So he handles all the bookings and the communications and stuff like that. You do in a sense as well. I know nobody. I just show up with a guitar wherever they tell me to.
This is actually Devin's first ever band ever. So.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of. I had
I wouldn't
a
think so.
band up in Hattiesburg, but we never played any shows. Wrote 3 songs and then split up because
Rock and roll, man.
creative differences. When we started out, we were a little all over the place as far as like our tone and our genre, I guess. And I generally don't like to, confine us to a specific genre. You know, we play all sorts of stuff. We play a lot of blues influences, some, I guess, alternative rock influences,
Classic rock.
a little bit of punk. The song that we're writing right now has got a lot of funk influences. Jazz, like we just kind of do everything.
It's really kind of like a tribute to rock and roll, kind of like, you know.
Well,
It's kind of that idea, just rock of all ages.
and that's a big, that's a symbolic thing behind our name, Vinyl Minds, is that we're just very much passionate about all the music that we've grown up on, and from all decades, definitely the vinyl age, and so that's definitely a reflection. You can feel that from music.
So we've got music on the brain.
I mean, it's just a new thing. I just like playing everything, no matter what. So for me, it's just a different way to express myself. But I know, like for all of us, it is really special because we don't really get to do that. There's not really a scene for original music down here. So maybe this kind of makes a spark somewhere. We can start doing more of it.
We definitely want to add to it. And, yeah, I know for me it's just, it's a lot different. I've always really wanted to be in originals, and I'm really happy to be doing it. And it's great having experience, and it's great getting experience playing covers, but that's kind of what we pull from. I mean, everybody who goes into original work, you just have everything that you've worked on over the years, kind of your influences that you pull from.
You got your own inspirations.
But it's one thing to, have a piece of music and, you want to pay the best tribute to it, to honor what somebody has done. But, like, when you have the opportunity to do something completely on your own, to make it your own, it's really special.
At that point, you're kind of just focusing more on putting as much power into it as you possibly can. And, maybe sometime in the future, a cover band will cover one of our songs. And
That's
they'll
a goal.
pay tribute to us. Yeah,
There is a goal.
There you go.
Yes. We're right now we're mainly on Facebook, but we'll also be on Instagram and YouTube and Final Months. You can definitely find us. Feel free to give us a follow, a like.
I think Facebook's our kind of our
It's the
one,
go-to right now.
Yeah.
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 Probably get a TikTok. You know.
Yeah.
Do the trends.
One day in the future.
Wear angel wings or something.
All right, guys. Anything else?
I think.
Thank you, Red Radio.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank y'all for having us.
It's been fun.
To the watchers and listeners, thank y'all for watching.
Absolutely.
They're making us sound pretty, so.
Mm.
All right, cool.
So that's what I did, and in the course of, I'll tell you what I've learned about this business is that the good things that have happened to me, the things that people might want to look at as this accomplishment, and I'm getting this credit, all credit. I can't hardly think of anything that's happened as a plus for me that I was really trying to do that, but I was always headed somewhere to do something. I might have been knocking on Ray Charles's door that day, Kenny Rogers' door the next day, trying to do that. But then, you know, like I was cutting sessions in Little Rock, Arkansas on Wayne Sharp, and I went to eat dinner and I met Michael Burks playing at a club. And his bass player happened to be the guy I started with at the Fiesta 27 years earlier. And I ended up with Michael Burks for 12 years, cut 4 albums. We got nominated about 20 times for BMAs. I've won 2 Blues Music Awards. And so you just never know. You know, I was up there cutting stuff, trying to just survive and pay my bills. And I was making a few $100 a week and, you know, doing this. But I went out to dinner and I'm always looking. I'm always awake, trying to be. So that's just kind of how I've ended up, you know, and I'm back home now. It's many years later, but with that attitude, I've managed to, as long as you stay in motion, things will happen, and be true to what you're doing and yourself. Every show I've done in the last, say, 20 years or so has been a learning experience at some level, you know. In that regard, I was this morning on the phone with one of my managers out in LA, and we were talking about the flyers and this, and it's such a different thing now. We used to do that. You could go to Edgewater Mall when it first opened here on the coast, for instance, and buy 1,000 flyers for $40 or something, and go out there and put them on windshields. You get arrested today, you know. And now with the casinos, it's like, where do you go, and who's going to want to put a flyer up for your independent production, your show, when you're going to take business away on Saturday night? Yet I was popular in all these places, and they all know me. So it would create a little awkward thing for us, because, like I said, I personally knew a lot of the people here when I first tried to do the Allman Show, and I went out, and that's when I started to have to learn about the, you know, boosting Facebook and the other. A guy from New York, and so they come to the table with, you know, an attitude. They can cut through steel. So I have him to help me along, and I have a sister that was in the school system for many, many years and is retired now, and she says she feels like that her whole career was to get her ready for this. You know, she's a real people person and can handle it. But I learn as we go along, because I'm also a control freak to some degree. You know, one of my sons. You probably know I have a little of that. But it's just, here we go. The thing about it is that, like you said earlier, I've been down this road. I'm old now. I'm an old guy. And old, you can be old and grumpy and grouchy, or you can be wise about what you do. And I wish I'd have done this probably 50 years ago, but then again, the catch-22 is you don't get to be this musician by just knowing the game and the scheme and being able to play the game. Well, so I started out on the coast in the bar band thing. I went out to Hollywood. I ended up doing a stint with the Elvin Bishop Band. You know, Elvin had a hit record, and so I made money with that. And I've just always done the gigs. And I got with Michael Burks doing blues in particular. We'll leave out all the stories. We don't have enough time for all of it. I'm that old. So when I ran into Michael Burks, he was working at this age and time like I was at the Fiesta in the late 60s. He worked all the time, and I got with him, and I just loved the R&B, the black blues, music. And when I got with Michael, I ended up, if he hadn't have dropped dead in Atlanta and died in my lap like he did, we'd still be doing it. I loved him. I loved the music. The gig with him changed my life. It was a whole new path for me in the genre of what I'd been doing. I started out a Beatle, and now I'm like an old, B.B. Sharp. I'm an old blues guy. But that's kind of how I made that transition. I started in California. I didn't have a band per se. Lamar had gotten sick and died after we cut that stuff with J-Mo. So J-Mo went back with the Allman Brothers, and Lamar had passed. And I kept playing, but I got with Elvin Bishop because he was working. I didn't have a band now to work, so I started working myself and living off my I don't want to say legacy, but my resume, my history of having played a lot and being able to get up and be professional. And at that other level, it's really important. Whereas down at the bar level, you're kind of, people have names they want to call you because you care that much about it. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to care that much. Most people are weekend warriors by necessity. They get to play on Friday, Saturday because they need to work Monday through Friday. And I really do too, actually. But I want to go. I made it I made it. And they kept going, one day you're going to have to get a real job. And I said, well, it's been a real job, fortunately. But that's how I got into doing the solo thing. Well, then as I got older, all us guys that made the real music, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Stones, whatever, people started dying. And all of a sudden who I was became a nostalgic thing in a way, because I represented an era that is kind of going away, every day. Buffett died the other day. I've been just watching them drop. And so all of a sudden what we had been doing back then is now a sellable thing to people that are hungry for that creative. I think the 60s were a special, and early 70s were a very special time in this country. And music and art and everything had a bigger play in the world. Music had power, peace, love, and make love, not war, and all that. And the Beatles were really exemplified, that whole era. So now that seems to be selling, and I'm just awake, and I'm looking around, and I'm trying to survive like everybody. And I'd been doing really well in the blues, and Michael had passed. And so when Michael passed, I had done a thing like this for a college football frat thing one year. I always played a lot of Allman Brothers music anyway, and I got paid an unbelievable amount of money for this show, and I really didn't even put the time and effort that I put into it now. I wasn't so much into the visual and all. We just played the music, like tribute bands do. But I wanted to do something between Cirque du Soleil and a tribute. I wanted to have a little bit of costuming, vintage gear, the setups just like the stage. I wanted we recreate the Fillmore East, basically. I'm doing an Allman Brothers show now because it's a good living, and the group I picked happens to play really good music, music that you can still enjoy as a player. It's not just because it sold records, so to speak, because they really wasn't famous so much for that as they are for being the Allman Brothers, that iconic jazz, country, that mixture, and 20-minute songs and things like that wasn't done before. So I fell into it, and it's just been very lucrative, but I also love the music, and there's an audience out there for it, which has really surprised me, and that's kind of what got me into it, more or less, is that the market's gone that way. The venues aren't out there anymore for those bands to develop and become Led Zeppelin or to become the Rolling Stones. There's no place to do that hardly. You play on weekends, and you need to play stuff people heard on the radio, or you're not going to be working long. They don't want to hear original music. And bars sell beer and booze. They don't sell music. And I learned that young, and a lot of guys don't learn that. They almost get mad at the club owner because he wants to hear Mustang Sally or whatever, whatever the song might be this year, Freebird, But you got to realize that's what you're doing. You're using the music to help a gentleman sell his product. So there's X amount of conditional, things that come with that. But I don't enjoy that. I did it. It's not I'm too cool to do it anymore. I don't do it anymore, but it's more because I did it already, and I get it for what it is. And there's guys that do it better than me because they appreciate it more. They have more respect for it than I do at this point. Now I need to be doing something that I get back. I get something back. I can't just do it for you. I do it. It's always been musicians. It starts out here. We're big fans. I wanted to be Elvis Presley. And unfortunately, he did a pretty good job of it, so I had to do something else. The hairline didn't work. The black sideburns. I mean, I ran short on all the points of interest. But yeah, that's how I got into it, and we have an incredible show. I have a son that's got I used him to open my show a couple of times, and I realized that one of my sons can really sing the white angst music. He's got that ear for, the Tom Petty and Mick Jagger. He can sing that stuff. I can't. I lean towards the Ray Charleses and that thing, Greg Allman, and that stuff. But I said, I suggested to him. I said, you should check it out, and he wasn't too receptive at first. But then he got involved with my shows and he saw the redemption in it, the redeeming value in it, and that he really could, and he loves Petty. And now that he's done it, it gave him something back, and he wants to do it. So I've talked him into, I said, man, instead of opening for me, you should headline your own show, and let's do a double header, man. You got a great band, bunch of local cats play with him. Jefferson Rogers, he's got Todd Durbin, great drummer, Scott Anderson. You need to check them out. I mean, they used to just open for me, but like I told him when they came off stage the last time, they got a standing ovation every song on their 30-minute set. And I told my son jokingly before the show, I said, now don't make it hard for me to come out there after you, behind you now. So when they walked off the stage, man, the place was on their feet. So, you're going to get yourself a double treat if you come to our show on September 30th at the Impact Center, because I think you're going to be really entertained with the Petty things. They really do an incredible job. Anyway, that's why I do it, and I really enjoy it, and I see the love and appreciation, and I've always been a performer, and I love to play. I could stay home and play piano, but I love entertaining. I'm not shy about admitting it. You call me a ham, whatever you want, a higher degree, you have to have it, but any guy that wants to get on the stage has got a little of that in him. But the real payoff, with the crowd probably don't realize, is that, man, it ain't anything without y'all. That's the deal, man. There ain't nothing worse than playing to an empty house if you're a performer. You can sit in your empty house at home and play music, and it'll give you everything you want from music. But if you do this for a living and you enjoy performing, get on the stage and get something back. And when that crowd gives it back, man, I've tried everything. There ain't no high like it. Believe that.
Too close and lost my wings. I'm falling from the